Welcome to Death Diaries. To support this channel, please subscribe. Unveiling the enigma of Jim Morrison's death and the puzzling theories that encompass it. The true circumstances surrounding the demise of rock legend Jim Morrison at the age of 27 in his Paris apartment have remained shrouded in mystery for decades. On the 3rd of July 1971, the world was shocked by the sudden death of Jim Morrison, the iconic frontman of The Doors. The questions surrounding his passing have endured far longer than his brief time on Earth. Officially, he was discovered lifeless in a Paris bathtub by his girlfriend, Pamela Courson. French authorities attributed Jim Morrison's death to heart failure without conducting an autopsy. Before the world could grasp the situation, he was quietly laid to rest in Paris. To some, it appeared to be a tragic culmination of a prolonged decline. Morrison had grappled with fame and addiction for years. Following an incident of alleged indecent exposure at a Florida concert in 1969, Morrison faced legal charges that he denied. Wary of the perils of stardom, Morrison and Courson relocated to Paris in March 1971. During their time in Paris, Morrison and Courson seemingly reverted to their old habits and frequented local nightclubs like Rock and Roll Circus. Some even claim that Morrison met his end at that very club, not in his apartment, and that a massive cover-up ensued for decades. This is the tale of Jim Morrison's demise, encompassing both the official account and the claims made by witnesses. The road to Jim Morrison's death. Born on the 8th of December 1943, Jim Morrison appeared an unlikely candidate for rock stardom. Raised in a strict household as the son of a future U.S. Navy Rear Admiral, Morrison's rebellion was inevitable. Despite maintaining good grades and a love for reading and writing, Morrison dabbled in alcohol at a young age. After reluctantly attending college at UCLA to avoid the Vietnam War draft, he embraced music. In 1965, he began writing lyrics, experimenting with drugs, and soaking up the California sun. He also formed a band with 3 others, christening it The Doors, inspired by a William Blake quote, "There are things that are known and things that are unknown, in between are doors." During that same year, he met Pamela Courson, who became his longtime girlfriend and muse, referred to as his cosmic partner. Morrison's father disapproved of his career path and urged him to abandon music. However, just 2 years after the band's formation, they released their first hit, Light My Fire, which skyrocketed to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. The Doors seemed unstoppable, churning out hit after hit and captivating rock and roll enthusiasts. Although Morrison relished the perks of rock stardom, particularly the attention from countless admirers, he grappled with newfound fame. His drinking escalated and he delved into various drugs. Morrison reached a breaking point after being charged with indecent exposure at a Florida concert in 1969. During his 1970 trial, Morrison realized he needed a change, scribbling a note in one of his notebooks. The joy of performing has ended. Shortly after being released on bond, he left The Doors. He and Courson then sought solace in Paris, hoping for a fresh start. Tragically, Jim Morrison's death was just around the corner, and he would never return home. In Paris, Jim Morrison and Pamela Courson rented an apartment near the Seine River. They spent their days exploring the city, and Morrison continued writing. In the evenings, they savoured the chic Parisian nightlife, and although Morrison had put on some weight, the last photos of him show a fit and content man. The hiatus from the band and the pressures of fame seemed to have had a positive impact. However, everything changed on the 3rd of July 1971. According to the official account of Jim Morrison's death, Pamela Courson discovered him dead in their apartment's bathtub. She called for help, but it was already too late. French authorities had questions, especially considering Morrison's youth and suspected drugs. Courson maintained that they had gone out for dinner, watched a movie, and listened to music at home before going to bed. She claimed that Morrison woke up feeling unwell in the middle of the night and took a hot bath while she slept. it was concluded that Morrison had succumbed to heart failure, possibly triggered by a heroin overdose. With no autopsy conducted, Courson's account was accepted. When she herself died 3 years later, also from a heroin overdose, it appeared that any other information about Jim Morrison's death had perished with her. However, in recent years, individuals from the Parisian nightlife scene have shared a different narrative. The exact circumstances surrounding his death have been hotly debated. In 2007, former New York Times journalist Sam Burnett, who had once managed the Rock and Roll Circus Club in Paris, came forward with a startling account. In his version, Jim Morrison did not die in the bathtub. In his book, The End, Jim Morrison, Burnett claims that the Doors frontman actually passed away in a toilet stall at the Rock and Roll Circus. While in Paris, Morrison had spent many nights at the club, often accompanied by Courson. However, on the 3rd of July 1971, Burnett witnessed Morrison meeting 2 drug dealers before heading to the bathroom around 2 a.m. When Morrison failed to return, Burnett had a bouncer break down the door and discovered him unconscious. Burnett alerted a doctor, a regular at the bar, who confirmed Morrison's death. Burnett wrote, "The flamboyant singer of the Doors, the beautiful California boy, had become a lump crumpled in the toilet of a nightclub. When we found him dead, he had a little foam on his nose, and some blood too, and the doctor said, that must be an overdose of heroin." Burnett's account isn't the only one of its kind. Writer and photographer Patrick Cheval recalled similar events. He was tending bar that night and found himself assisting in carrying Morrison up a staircase with no ambulance summoned. Cheval believed Morrison was either already dead or unconscious due to substances. "I think he was already dead," Cheval remarked. "I don't know, it was a long time ago and we weren't drinking only water." Burnett maintains that the 2 drug dealers at the scene insisted Morrison had supply fainted. Although Burnett wanted to call an ambulance, his boss cautioned him to remain silent. Ultimately, he believes the drug dealers transported Morrison's body outside and drove him home, placing him in the bathtub while Courson slept. Since no autopsy was conducted and many details of that fateful night remain obscure, numerous conspiracy theories have emerged over the decades. Some even suggest that Morrison faked his own death, either moving to New York City to recite poetry or escaping to Oregon and establishing the Jim Morrison Sanctuary Ranch under the alias Bill Lower. Regardless of the specifics of Jim Morrison's death, there is no doubt that his music endures. The love for the Doors and Morrison's insightful lyrics continues long after his untimely passing. His contributions to the world of rock are undeniable and will forever be remembered.